I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, okay. You can continue, Stan.
Okay. Well, I think that maybe if we can maybe tackle it from the angle while he was a president from the ANC, that different would be in the ANC as much as he wanted to change so many things, but because he was a democratic person and he's very open to policies again, he believed that things should be discussed, and whether you win or you lose, but things must go to a table and we have a discussion about them, of which in the ANC there were issues of ballroom and all those things and so forth. So obviously there were people who were against him, so he did not have that much power to change so many things in the ANC because of so many reasons. Of one of them is one I've mentioned. This time around, I strongly believe that even if we are not getting a two-third majority, but him becoming a president again, changes will be made in a sense that the people who are behind him are pushing him and are the people who believes in what he want to do. So therefore, in that manner, even if we do not have a two-third majority, but most of the things will be tackled in a correct direction. Even worse, in a case whereby we get a two-third majority and we have to change the constitution and so forth. So in that manner, because he be having powers by himself, he won't have to beg anyone or convince or lobby anyone. So therefore, the things will just go to a correct direction and be done correctly. So beside relying on someone's help and so forth. So that's how I've seen it on my view. But maybe now, yes, my leader. Sorry, I see your speaker is open. Oh, okay. But okay, maybe going back to where we are now, maybe the two latter speakers, oh, we had four latter speakers, but I think it was a Bill Ray and a think tank. Okay, everyone has contributed, correct, but I think our contributions emanated mostly from a think, think tank, something like that.
Can I also add?
Okay, okay, you can, my leader. I'm sorry, I'm not a host or co-host, but
O-
because you are on a
o-
mic, you can. Yes.
Okay. Uh, this thing of saying, I mean, that's the biggest question anybody will ask. Will say, Jacob Zuma is saying this, but this guy forgets that he was president. Why didn't he do it? That's the first thing someone who wants to be against Zuma will say. But people don't understand that when you are president, it does not mean that's why this uh, democracy it's there to safeguard for such things so that a president does not have absolute power. Now in China, once you are president, you can literally do whatever you want to do. Like if the people put you there as the member of a party, the party already knows what we want to do and they do it. The people who put Putin in power, they know what Putin is going to do. So Putin has power to do whatever he wants to do without anybody opposing him. That's why with Putin, if you are against him, he will kill you. Now in South Africa, you can't do that. Why? Because it was set up that way. In fact, by the Roman Dutch law, that okay, there needs to be parliament, and then there's the judiciary and the executive. So Zuma falls under the executive. So whatever he does can always be put null and void by the judiciary. The judiciary is basically Bozondo, Womkhweng. Those are the guys who are safeguarding. And those guys, if those guys are paid for by the establishment. It means that the executive, which Zuma falls under, cannot actually do anything. And Zuma also still needs to get the backing from Parliament. Now, Parliament is another ball game because it means that he needs to have certain numbers that side. And those numbers are determined by what happened in the election. So basically on how many people voted for the ANC, the DA, the EFF. So you see that he does not have all the power just to do whatever he wants to do. He can't just wake up and say, children must be disciplined at school, and children must go to the military when they leave matric, so that the country must be a disciplined country. The parliament will say, no, we're not agreeing with that. The judiciary will say, no, we're not agreeing with that. It's not under constitution, whatever, all these things. And those parliament and the judiciary can always be bought by whoever doesn't want it. For example, if you saw this week or the past week, they voted Judge John Sope out. Even that guy Bongo voted for that guy to be ousted. Why? He didn't vote because he wanted Judge John Sope to go. He voted because there are people who are pressuring him to vote. The only person who didn't vote was Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, because she voted on her own conscience. The EFF also didn't vote because they are not controlled by the people who want that judge to go. But if those people who want that judge to go were the same people who control the EFF would have also voted.
Guys, I'm not sure if Usianda is done because I couldn't hear Usianda. It seems like every space there's one or two people that I can't hear. So Sianda, maybe if you can just left and then come back immediately, and then I'm sure then I will hear you after that, because I couldn't hear even a thing that you were saying.
Can you still hear me?
I'm still struggling to help my co-host today, and I'm trying. Yeah. This is beyond us. There's nothing that I can do because it is the app. I don't know what is wrong with it. Before we go to Rachel, let's
But can you hear me?
Anami.
Leadership, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Think Tank was on the podium after Sianda. So while you were interjecting, he was still talking. So I don't know if you can hear him as well, but yeah, he can just speak, and maybe if you can hear him, signify to him if you can hear him or not.
Okay, can you hear me, Mkondo?
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear him, but at first when he made his submission, I was able to hear him. Okay. All right. Think Tanker, you can continue. But before you continue, Think Tanker, Sianda, can you say something? Just say hello or something.
Greetings, leadership. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes. Now I can hear you.
Maybe we should test with everyone, yeah.
Now, but what I've noticed, if I can't hear you and then you leave the space and then you come back immediately, then I'm able to hear you. I don't know what is happening, but I've noticed this. But Utik Tanker, because Vele Ubipodium Jengamanje can continue and then he can leave and then come back after that.
Okay. So we're actually talking about why people say Jacob Zuma was president, and why he's talking about things now and he could have done those things before. And just to summarize a bit, we're just showing that he did not have, when you are president of South Africa, you don't really have all the powers. You can't just wake up and you say, tomorrow there must be corporal punishment. There are a lot of factors which go into that. And for example, parliament, judiciary, and obviously the executive. And Zuma falls under the executive, and he still needs support of the judiciary and also parliament. And this explains why Ramaphosa, when he came in, he knew that if he wanted to do things, He needed backing of all those things. So first thing he did, Ramaphosa was very ruthless. If I get, I mean, the guy is ruthless. He knows that in order for him to have power, he needs to be ruthless. And unfortunately, people like Jacob Zuma are not that heartless, but that's what Zuma should have done. If you look at it, Zuma should have also been ruthless, because that's the only way it's gonna take. But I think now he realizes he should have been more ruthless, because Ramaphosa, he comes in, he makes sure that whoever he puts as Chief Justice will always listen to what he says. So Zondo will never go against Ramaphosa. So all those judges who sit in the constitutional court there, they listen to what Ramaphosa says. And it's easier for Ramaphosa, because Ramaphosa, he doesn't just go to those guys and he says, you listen to me, you'll make rulings for me, and there's not going to be any rulings against what I want to do. It's easy. You know why? Because he was funded. He had so much money. I mean, it's very obvious that Zondo got some of that those dollars. What are dollars doing there in Ramaphosa's house? Those dollars, he got them from the CIA. What is the role of the CIA? The role of the CIA is for regime change. So the CIA infiltrate any country who they want to control. Why would the CIA infiltrate South Africa? Because Jacob Zuma was moving too close and being friendly with China and Russia. And when you are friendly with China and Russia and you want to implement things which China and Russia are telling you, and most of the time, what China and Russia are telling you to do, or you are most, in fact, they're not even telling you, you are aligned with their way of doing business, with their way of running the country. I mean, just look at how successful China is, how successful Russia is. I mean, even America and the whole of Europe cannot defeat Putin. If there's one guy America is afraid of, is Putin. Why? Because Putin runs his country very well and they cannot defeat him. America is afraid of Russia, is afraid of China. And Jacob Zuma wanted to make South Africa that way. He wanted to make a country in Africa to have that type of power where you don't need the Western world to be telling you what to do. Hence, he wanted to bring nuclear, because he knew that then you don't have other interests. I mean, Ramaphosa, he just immediately he's selling electricity generation to the private sector, meaning that Mutsepe, Rupert, Oppenheimer, and any other European country can come and generate electricity for South Africans and say, South Africans, we are selling this to you. It's just like ShopRite and Checkers sells things to us. When you go to ShopRite and Checkers and you say you want to buy meat, you're not going to go there and toy and say the meat price is up. No, it's either you want it or you don't. But with electricity, you can't do that because everybody needs it. Now, Ramaphosa is actually doing that. Is that those guys, the day you're going to fight against the white people, they'll just switch off the electricity. That's what Ramaphosa wants, to privatize electricity. Now, in Russia, there's no such thing. The government owns it. So there's no one who's going to tell Russia what to do because they own it. They own the mines. Now, if you're going to privatize the mines and you give all the mines to private, then you don't own any raw material, meaning that you cannot build anything because you need raw materials to build things. So he wants to privatize the ports. Imagine it, the railway lines, all these strategic things which you are not supposed to do. Ramaphosa wants to do it. And Jacob Zuma wanted to actually let the state own those things. But because there's parliament, and in parliament, remember, the ANC is a mixture of different people who are there for different. Please continue.
Think Tank, I think you should unmute. You were muted by mistake, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw I was muted. All right. So Ramaphosa, there are different forces in the ANC. It's not something he built. It's not like Jacob Zuma woke up and built the ANC in his own ideology. There were a mixture of different people in the ANC who were there for different things. There are people in the ANC who are just there to advance capitalism and globalism and all other manner of factors. And then there are people in the ANC who went there to say, for our people, we want to do this for our poor people. Now, those two, Jacob Zuma falls under that bracket of saying for our people. And then what Ramaphosa, they fall under for the guard of white interest. And even Nelson Mandela falls under that. I mean, there's a video which explains it. He was actually, Nelson Mandela himself was saying there's not going to be any nationalization of land. We will make privatization to thrive in South Africa. In fact, just to show that Nelson Mandela was already captured in that faction, that side of being with white monopoly and saying, we are with white monopoly, we are going to make sure our country advances through privatization and inviting the foreigners to come in and own and take over. Jacob Zuma was not for that. Jacob Zuma was saying, let's make the wealth of the country trickle down to everyone. So it's not easy.
Come in just quickly. I'm sorry for interruption. We've been having some technical problems.
So it's not easy.
Can you hear me, Think Tank? I'm saying that we are regaining our microphones now. At least we can be able to co-host and host accordingly. Can I request that before we can go to Sianda, if you can please round it up in the next 2 minutes or so, and then we can move on to Sianda. Thank you.
Okay. So it's not easy for Jacob Zuma to just just do his ideas in that current ANC. It had a lot of mixed factors and different people were there for different things. And the parliament also has to do with it. Because he needs the votes in order to pass certain things in there. And those people were not going to vote with him. The media also was a big factor. That's why I heard Belray said they need to be some form of education. People need to be educated on how the media operates. Not everything you listen to on SABC, ENCA. In fact, ENCA, it's controlled by the same people who fund Ramaphosa. So whatever they say, they're going to say negative things. So people must know that do not listen to anything that comes from ENCA. It's your enemy. So that's the type of educations we need to educate our people. Do not listen to things coming from News Africa. Focus on what we are telling you here. Don't focus on the media. So most people don't know that. They think everything is real. Whatever you see on TV is real. So on the education aspect, Belray was right that people need to be educated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was really very much mouthful. I would want to take this opportunity to move on to Sianda, and then after that, if you raise your hand, we're going to be following with you as well. But Sianda, over to you now.
Thank you, co-host Norman. Nothing tanker. You taking my mic and you turn the stage to be yours. That's how politicians are trained. But other than that, comrade, nothing is wrong. We are all here having our own input and trying to move on. Yeah, man. Yeah, a lot of things has been said already, but okay. There is one thing. Okay, there are 2 or 3 things that Bill Ray has mentioned that we really need to look at them as our topics. We need a political education, as they are saying. We need that to be a topic, but I don't know how possible it is that if that space of that day can be formal and be run by the chess master just to educate us, and I think we'll have a lot of things to learn, and we will have a lot of questions as well, but mostly we are going to learn so many things, as we are all hearing that when is taking the stage, well, the policies of the MK, they are already in their minds and they are written, they can sing them. They know where to take this country, and then but to some extent the questions arises there and there. So we want to clear that gap, and we need to fill in that space so we proper understand, like we move on the same direction, because he has given a line of march already. We know, if you can ask me what are the policies of MK, I mean, we all already know and so forth. So things are moving to a correct direction. But there's one tweet that have disturbed me. I don't know whether it's a propaganda or is correct, but I want to check how things went in Swinton, because I've heard others saying that we've been disqualified because of that. We do not have constitution and so forth. Coast and Coast, one of you take a mic. Can you give me a clarity there, or anyone who knows? After I'm done, give me a clarity there so that I'll be at ease. Because I did not understand. Maybe it's a propaganda, because I've seen others, they were saying we've got 3 seats, others they are saying we've disqualified and so forth. But there are a lot of propagandas that are moving nowadays. I think we have reached the time where things are getting more hot and more hot and more hot. So there'll be reckless information that will be moving around and so forth. But other than that, the other topic, host and co-host, that we need to tackle again, maybe it would be to say drugs, sex, vis-a-vis our future youth, or our future in youth. And maybe we leave it open like that, and I think we will develop so many ideas, we'll have so many inputs and so many things to talk about, as we have given a line of march. But one other aspect again that I've seen is that there is an issue now between Thandi Modise and Ramaphosa. And ke bathi ngesiZulu ayinuki ngosiwanga. We want to get closer to that, because we know how political direction or political positions are working. Uh, it might happen that they are well having some issues to close, or they are really fighting now. So there's an advantage for us as South Africans if Thandi Modise and Ramaphosa can have a serious fight. Why I'm saying this? Because I've seen that MK is going to the court on the 5th, and well, we don't know what will be the result, but we know the mandate that MK must be disqualified. We don't know what would be the end result of that. But if that can happen, I think we need to put our eyes very close to it, between the issue of Thandi Modise and the Ramaphosa. And if they can fail to iron out the issues they have, hey, things will be working on a very good direction for us, because I mean, we know Uguti Uthandi Modise, he has been there just to protect, not for anything to happen to Ramaphosa and so forth. But if they can really fight, I think we are heading to a correct direction now. But again, I want to check the position of the IEC now about the issue of MK, because last we've checked, the IEC went to the news openly, so declaring that MK, they have nothing wrong, they have done, and so forth and so forth and so forth. That even their registration was correct, and so on and so on. But now we can see and we can feel that, or we can see that IEC, I think, is going to testify on a issue in court. So yeah, there are so many things that are interesting, but well, we know what they want to achieve at the end and so forth. So yeah, we are demoralized, but we are pushing hard that at least even if the enemy is in our face, we need to make sure that if we have to fight physical, let that be it. I mean, we've got nothing to lose. This is our country. We know very well some of us, they would want to be very diplomatic about this issue to say, if we have to go physically and fight, let that be it. But that's what we are facing now, because we cannot be played with that Roman and Dacian laws of the court and so forth, going in and out court, in and out of court, even with the issues that they are not supposed to go in and out of court, the issues that are straightforward and so forth. But I know Guti, yeah, some of us would say, hey, but if we go to fight, I mean, I think now is the time that we show them that what happened on July unrest was nothing, and like was really nothing. If we have to go on a street and our heads are put on a block for this MK, let that be it. Because this capitalist is really draining. We are drained about this capitalism and this imperialism that is happening and so forth. So now we need to reach a limit, because now we need to remember that it is now or never. Because once we are not gaining anything now, we have lost forever. So we really need to be sure of what we are doing, and we need to be ready. So if we're gonna sleep and think that, hey, no man, but the court and we are demoralized, no, we need to use every tool. We do not have resources, but at least we are here alive. There are things that we can do. Let me submarine host and co-host for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sianda. I pinned your answer there concerning Indaba Swinton. I hope you can see it. That is from the official page of Umkhonto. So that is what we know. Any other thing else is just propaganda and rumors, until it is announced otherwise. But that is what we know. So that is why we've been also posting it. Before we go to Anami, because Anami sandla sakhe kade siphakamile. Ray, I see your hand has been up as well.
No, I'll let Anami and Ubudnhlanhla and Skumbuzo to go first. But let me just say congratulations to the young spears. They did indeed very well. 2 months party, doing so well. Congratulations. I'll go after everyone. Wanna comrade. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Anami,
Greetings, commanders. Greetings to the
can you guys
listeners.
hear Anami?
Yes,
Okay,
quite
Anami.
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you quite clearly, yes.
Okay, proceed, Anami.
Okay. So I'll be very short, I believe, but I'll be touching mainly on the party. Various ideas I have had. Honestly. The first thing is like the media. As MK, we need our own media, I would say conglomerate, something like that, where we'll have like our own separate media channels, like your Spotify's, your YouTube's. I think there is already a YouTube channel. Your TikToks, I've seen a few. So that we don't have discussions only here in what you call this in Twitter or X, but we can also have interviews with various members of the MK and or officials of the interim to come and sit down, address certain issues, clarify on some things that a lot of people are not aware of, or they how can I put it? They have been told maybe wrong about the MK. And I was looking at things like, our political education. We can have like Spotify, whereby we can have various members who are trained in the party ideology and leftist policies and ideology to create these lectures whereby maybe some member is cleaning or doing some tasks around the house, whereby they can be listening to what is being said. That can also help a lot. We can have our own news. I'm a great follower of geopolitical analysts in YouTube. We can also have our own geopolitical analysis, dissections in our own view as the MK party. I think that could also greatly help. In the podcast space, interviews, as I've said before, interviews are very important. You can have sit downs, especially now that it is the election cycle. A lot of people are bringing in a lot of professionals, political analysts. We should also do that as the party. Bring in analysts to also like dissect, tell us, what do you predict? Recently I was watching a podcast, not a podcast, but a YouTube video about some media channel or whatever, the state of the nation, and I was appalled by hearing what they were saying about our stances in South Africa, all of these things. So as MK, we really need to be there fully engaged in the media realm. We also need to be bringing in people who have ideas. We need people to sit down to also show the people that we as MK, we are clever. We know what we want. We know what we are going to be advocating for. Plans, policies, maybe ideas, all of these kinds of things. And we need to bring in young revolutionaries. Like recently we have had MKSM, MK Students Movement. I believe those were the ones who won the SRC seats. I don't know if maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm in contact with one of the the members, and he's been telling me about the developments going on. We could have them also sit down, because they've been saying that though they've been having financial constraints, resources, we could also sit down with them, hear about their struggles, but then also hear about the journey they have been through, because what they are doing is truly revolutionary and remarkable, handling these elections every single way, because what I hear is that they are not concentrated in one area, but they are every single way. Then I would like to speak about the party thinkers. I'm a history student. I love history. When it comes to history, that's me. And one day I happened to stumble upon, I was looking at the Afrikaner institution of apartheid and how it really began. It was the Broederbond. Yes. And when you hear what they were doing, it's one could say it was horrible, but then others would say, we can truly learn a lot from that, because we as MKO, let me say the black people in general, we don't have people who sit there and really advocate for our cause, meaning speaking about those who are currently in the political realm, in the business realm. We don't have those people. And MK is that a new organization, but we also need to create these what you call organizations, or maybe groups of people who would like sit down and say, okay, we as MK needs to create our economic muscle, to back up our party strength, because that's how white monopoly capital has played. You have had political parties, but they also had businesses, investments, large pools of funds. As MK, we also need to be creating that. We also be needing to advocating for installing these pro-revolutionary people in certain sectors, in certain organs of government when we become into government, so that even when the system is threatened, perhaps we will be strong, because we know that we are everywhere. Now let's talk about the party umbrella. I like to believe that the party does not need to be this one organization, but it needs to be a broad organization that has various and other allied parties, perhaps unions, student movements, cultural movements, our churches and all these kinds of things. Because in a revolution, it doesn't only take the revolutionaries, these political minded people, but it takes a lot of people from the society in general. And if MK capitalizes on that, that the current political system in South Africa has not been using all these opportunities that are every single one. We have your think tanks, wrap them around us as MK, business councils, cultural organizations, our churches, and African philosophers, and all of these things, because the more we use them, it truly advances our goal as MP, because it then presents a party that is very different from the current ones in our current political system. MK should also be, in our arts and culture. Arts and culture is expression of ourselves. As Black people, we need to be relooking at even the concept of arts and culture in our own Africanness, because we have like Europeanized every single thing, even our democracy. As Commander Think Tank was saying, that democracy really needs to be reinterpreted. What is democracy to us as Africans? How can we interpret it in our own way? Because we have countries like China, which elect their leaders, but not in the way that you'd find in countries like America or Europe. In Russia, they also have their own elections. It's varying degrees. And South Africa also, and perhaps even all the other African countries may learn from South Africa. Should we implement this, that we must now relook at even the concept of this democracy in terms of us. Because when we look back at our history as African people, we've had a communal system, whereby we are one. Now you find that we are so polarized and divided in even our neighborhoods. And I think that's the real death of democracy, because now finding out that we are shouting from all across the great divides, even pro-Black progressive parties that are leftist also, they don't like each other. You have members that are having arguments with other members of these progressive parties, And I think that's important also as MK. We need to touch upon that. And Africanism, I'm an African philosopher, as I would like to believe. I'm still learning this concept, and hopefully I might come to the heights of Abo Joshua Mapong. Like him or hate him, that man truly speaks philosophy and wisdom. And when you listen to him, he truly does explain it in a truly remarkable way. Is that Africa, in order to develop, and South Africa in itself, needs to clear out every single thing, like it was saying, the Roman Dutch law. Clear it out. Let's relook at the system, the structure, and now reinterpret it in our own way. Therefore, that's why I always say, if we truly want to develop as a country, we need to not now build this one big plan of national development, but then relook it in terms of areas like Umlazi or Durban, I would say, because that's where I'm based. What could it look or critically delve into as a community in terms of economic development? Therefore now you are decentralizing the whole process, and now you're allowing for, therefore, Black people to now be participants in these things, creating our facilities of lending, your finances, and all these things, which I'll go deeper into perhaps some other day. And and another thing is important is community presence. Yesterday I was listening to another podcast, today morning, where they were saying, we find that many political parties are not so involved on the ground. And I think that's a shame, because you find that these parties that are the biggest ones, they only come into these political, into these wards or areas or wherever, only when it's election time. Excuse me. Other than that, they are not there. They're nowhere to be found or seen. Even the offices of ward councillors are not in the wards they are supposed to be representing. And I think that's a shame, because MK should also now take this position whereby when it says it's mobilizing on the ground, it must be fully on the ground. It must be working the ground, ensuring that every single member in that part is an MK follower. Why? Because MK is there and we are sharing the vision, all of these kinds of things. So that's what I like to touch upon. I hope I was brief enough. Yes. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Wena Leader. We really do understand that we, no matter how we may want to be brief, but we have facts, we have points to make, and our basket is full of hopes that is everywhere and that we have just touched upon. I think just quickly before we can just move on, I can see the hands and the host will agree with me that we need to move. I see Upel Ray before we can just go to other speakers. But just to quickly comment, one of the things that the interim leadership is faced with is to keep the fire burning, and keeping the fire burning for an organization that is growing at the rate in which Umkhonto weSizwe is. It's such a very difficult one because everyone wants a pound of flesh from them. We want communication. We want them to give some advices in terms of particular areas. We want them to participate and answer some questions, and it's not always possible. We also want the political education that you are making reference to, which is not possible. But more than that, we also want to have a draft constitution so that we can have a substrate on which to base the discussion that will be taken through at a conference beyond the elections. So I'm trying to say, not necessarily trying to be, in defense of, the interim leadership office, but just to say that it's a whole lot of things. It's a disadvantage of having a party that is new, which is growing at this particular rate. Ben Ray, let me just take you quickly, if you could be brief, and then we can continue with our speakers. Thank you.
I already spoken, Chan. I said I'll come after everyone. Thank you.
Sibona isandla siphakeme Budre. Okay. I think our next speaker is
I just don't want to be forgotten. Yeah, but I'll come after.
Okay, guys. It is a pity that I can't hear most of the speakers. I do not know why. I couldn't hear a thing that Aname was saying. Okay, but let us go to Rachel and then we're gonna go to Unhlata. I hope I can hear Rachel and Unhlata. Rachel, over to you.
Good evening, comrades. I hope you can hear me. My voice is still a bit hoarse, but I struggled for an whole hour to get onto the our space. I don't know what went wrong, and I couldn't hear anybody. But can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Rachel,
you can go ahead.
Okay. Now I heard a lot of the last speaker, and then where I wanted to make input on is where we say that President Zuma couldn't do what he wanted in South Africa. He also said at one stage that he wished he was a dictator. He says because South Africa at that time, South Africa is the problems are not so huge, and it will take him 6 months to sort out our problems. And then that was when he was there. Now our problems now is tripled. If not, it's like 1,000 times more than what he said we have, right? So when it comes to the judiciary, parliament, the president, his cabinet, his political party, I think that the ANC, as much as we loved it, was captured by the wrong side of the UDF. Remember, the UDF had good intentions and they were good people, but most of the people that call themselves ANC veterans were the people that was there to meet Madiba. They were the ones that was ready for the cameras to take their photos. Then the students that was used to do the groundwork were out. If you look at all of the ANC members that's in cabinet, you'll see they say, I was in the UDF, I did X, Y, and Z. And then you wonder, but what are they talking about? I think they're lying because I don't think it was so easy to say where and to what you believe. That's why even if you look at membership and they talk about their cards and stuff, I never get scared of that because I say to myself, was it so easy for you to take a card? We were still scared even after 1994. Now, President Zuma one day said, when it came to the Guptas, that Madiba brought, that Thabo Mbeki said was glorious, and which President Zuma inherited from that too. He didn't bring the Guptas at all. Right? So when he said that, he said on TV, everything that I did, I discussed with the ANC. I told them everything, every plan. For them to say now that they don't know the Guptas, they don't know this X, Y, it's a blatant lie. Now, look at it, comrades. Look at it this way. You know, you get people like Cyril. Cyril is a billionaire. He didn't build his billions. He was given. He was part of that. If he was, I was a student. I just saw him. His picture once at UDF, right? He didn't build it. They were given shares. Cheryl Carolus was given shares. Her husband was in charge of the land bank. But now look how it went. Cheryl chose specifically cement, right? Which they needed for RDP homes. So she was set. Then Oppenheimer gave them all diamond shares, right? And according to BEE, you had a social responsibility and none of them stuck to it. That's why BEE was only in the hands of a few and it flopped. All the policies that our leaders had was nice up till SGB, and it was all corrupted. Our biggest problem in South Africa is the love for money. That is why we are not a China and we are not a Russia. Because Russia and China think about the bigger picture, their country, what are they leaving behind. South Africa, again, is people, if they are in positions, they want money now. They want positions now for them. They don't look at the bigger picture. If they are important at that moment and they don't think about the country. Now President Zuma is sitting with these people, and I believe that he was the only one working, right? And he's driving them. He told them, I want to do X, Y, and Z. How many black billionaires do we know that was willing to do what the Guptas did? We're buying this mine. We're selling the coal at a price like that because I think the Guptas had an Indian mentality. Their mentality is you sell something cheaper, but you push in quantity. That's how they do business, and it works. Now, on the other side, you have Glencore, where Cyril was in charge of. He came from the UDF. He was a unionist. He becomes the CEO of Glencore. He has all these shares, and the man sells resources that belong to the nation. Not even the government, the nation. He sells it to us maybe about 10 times more than what the Guptas sell. Then you have this media, right? That they, I don't know where this hate comes from, right? Captured. And they were filling the minds of South Africans with this. The Guptas did this. President Zuma still does. Even children could tell you that President Zuma stole money, then he built for him Nkandla. But Nkandla was then already there. And the media helped to drive that narrative. When it comes to Parliament, remember that Parliament makes laws. And then the Concord is supposed to help Parliament to interpret the laws. And if you look at South Africa being a developing state, no Parliament here you do wrong. No Parliament, they didn't fulfill that role. In many ways, our Concord are supposed to be collapsed long ago, because the duty of Concord and every court is to protect the country. But if you look in the case of President Jacob Zuma, they never protected South Africa. In fact, they put South Africa in the problem that it is now. You can see with all the rulings that they make, you can see that with everybody that was appointed, even that blind judge that came from the struggle, how he speaks to people, how he says people must do things, all of them didn't protect South Africa. They made rulings about foreigners. They made rulings about the grants. They make rulings about schools. Everything that breaks the South African nation, our courts made a ruling about. Then you come to the private the private case that President Jacob Zuma had. Just the other day, the court threw it out. No, we're not going to entertain it. He did it private against, I think, the journalist. Imagine you have something, you have a way of doing something. The ordinary courts are already captured. Now you go another way. I'm going to prosecute privately. And here you have all your facts. These people leaked my medical record, and your case gets thrown out. So what democracy are we talking about? We don't have democracy. I'm sorry, guys. We do not have democracy. We have no system in our country. And the only system that will help South Africa, and I hope South Africans think, because South Africans are now tasting what the media were feeding them with. It is now turning against them. And they are so tired now, so whatever, that they just look on. They have to go out and vote, and they have to go vote for MK. Not because of what people say that some of them say, oh, President Zuma is old. Oh, President Zuma does. Oh, why does he want to become president again? What they do not realize, these were freedom fighters. They knew exactly what is happening in South Africa. Unfortunately, when they came back, they had a side in the UDF that was corrupt. And those people you see nowhere. And when will the media point it out, that people out and say, look where this one come from, look where that one. They don't do it because they themselves are captured. Now, if you want to get South Africa back to where Zuma left it, you have to give him that power to do that. Because if you look at it, he does not have to do a thing for the South Africa. He can sit there in his house, he gets his pension, he gets his everything. But he came back. Why? Because they come from an era where they went into this struggle saying, but this is the dreams that we have for this South Africa. And when you look at countries like Russia, for instance, you know Vladimir Putin is standing based on the fact that they changed the Russian constitution. Why did they change it? Because they want Vladimir Putin to stand. Can you imagine a world without Vladimir Putin? It will be chaotic. It will be another South Africa, because South Africa is based on laws that we did not even make ourselves. You can go to each and every attorney. I'm telling you people today, I studied law. Ask these people, tell me where does indigenous law fit in? None of them have an answer. Yet, indigenous law is a principle of South African law. Meaning that if you look at it legally, you as a South African could say, but I want you to try me according to indigenous law. And when people hear the word indigenous law, they think black law. It doesn't work like that. It is indigenous law of each race, if you want to call yourself, of the nation. This laws is how we had a law and order in our communities. This is what we did. That is indigenous law. And they are completely ignoring it. I always wonder, what would these people have done if President Jacob Zuma, he had 3 or 4 wives, right? It was accepted legally. So what would they have done if he says, I want to be tried for what you said I did wrong. I want to be tried according to indigenous law. And according to indigenous law, they would not have had the cases that they have against him. That's the problem that we sit with. And it's a problem that we sit with not because we created it. Then I take you back to Saudi Arabia. Why do you go to Saudi Arabia and they tell you these are our laws based on this, because this is how we live in our country and the world respect that. But when you come to South Africa, you have to say these are our inherited laws because we were a colony. I think Saudi was also a colony. It's because those people that people choose, when they choose leaders, they choose weak puppets, because the ANC had the power to stop Nkandla, and I will always say it, to stop Nkandla from going to Concord. The fact that Nkandla going to Concord, it had a spiral effect. And if you look at it legally, they have to take Thuli to task. Because after Nkandla, nothing that Concord said carried any weight besides Nkandla and sending President Zuma to court, to jail. So we definitely have a problem with our judicial system, because besides the laws that we inherit, we still have people that sit on the benches and they are racist. Racism, money, and foreign influence destroyed South Africa. And as the previous speaker said, the main aim of the CIA is eradicate everything within whatever measure you use that is a problem to America. I always tell my family, you will be sitting in a room and you will not know, even a person that they indoctrinated will not know that they are indoctrinated. It's how Netanyahu said. Netanyahu said in one video, no, Iran is not a problem. Iran has got many links. They have the internet. The only thing you have to put on is show them American videos, show them American how we live, and all of that youngsters would want to live how the Americans live. And if you look at Iran, you will see how the CIA actually succeeded, because you had youngsters telling the Iranian government, we had enough, and they are Muslim, and this is their laws. And the Iranian government don't do what South Africa do. No, they kill those people. This is our Islamic law. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. That is the influence of the CIA, and you can see it so clearly in South Africa. Before I leave, comrades, you will get shocked. There's 3 things where they destroyed us with. They started in Cape Town after the UDF. Ellen Busak had Cape Town in the palm of his hands. Who did they take out first? When we didn't even know what the word corruption mean, they said he was corrupted. They took him out because he was a problem, right? And did Cyril and them fight back? They didn't. They didn't fight. They didn't ask questions. He was just out, right? Then they started with Cape Town. They had a liquor problem where they were paying people half liquor, half salary. Then drugs was distributed. After that comes the sex. After that, they made go now to any advert of Western Cape. You will see it says it's a lovely city, the friendliest towards gay people. And I'm not looking down upon gay people. It would be wrong of me, and I'm not judging them. But that is also a way of destroying a country. If you look at South Africa now, the amount of people that we had that was alternative, it didn't double, it didn't triple, it went way beyond. Then people say this is conspiracy theories. Go to any school now. Any school in South Africa, choose any school. Boys, girls. That's a problem that we have. Girls have a distorted view about males. Boys also, right? So the situation was created where you destroyed this country that had all these, even some of the apartheid laws that protected them. This is how you live in your little blocks. They took it all away. Our children are confused. Our children are drunk. Our children have sex. And those that don't have sex, all of them are gay. They tell you men are bad, boys are bad. This is what they do. It is all the concepts which America did. But we're not the only country. In Canada, the same gay people stood up and said, but we never wanted to be known as LGBTQ and all the pluses. I just wanted to be known as somebody that prefers somebody that's my gender. And I never wanted to expose any young kid to the pictures that I see now. So those people in Canada rose up against the government saying, look what you are doing to our community. What are we seeing in South Africa? The schools, the ANC, all of them promote these things. Why do they promote these things? Because the ANC is lazy. They like funding. Who funds them? America. Every program that you have in schools, the funds come from America. And the funds tell you what you must do in schools. So when you have a government and a cabinet that's lazy, you will not get anything done in your country. Look at EFF. Are you telling me that EFF could only say Zuma must go? When they have to vote on very, very important things, do you know that EFF walks out? They don't walk out because we're walking out now because to show you. No, they walking out because they I don't hate them, but they belong also to someone. They also have somebody pulling their strings. So they rather walk out than vote for the right thing. Where can you clearly see it? You know, when Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in, I don't know if you people saw how Baleka, she pushed the program. She pushed it. She ran through it because at that stage she knew that we actually don't have a government. We don't have a government because Parliament was accused of the same thing that they accused President Jacob Zuma of. So as Malema himself said, but you can't make us do this, vote for somebody now, because we then accused of the same thing. EFF didn't vote, they walked out. So this walking out is an excuse to vote for the right thing. It's not of we don't agree with you, because if you don't agree with something, you are going to vote. It's an excuse that they use because if somebody pulls your strings, you're not completely agreeing with him, but you want his money. You want his money. So money is a problem in South Africa, and it's a good thing that MK doesn't have money. We take money from our pockets, and we sit there actually and strategize. Guys, those people are asking. I'm coming from a meeting. We want T-shirts. What are we going to do? Where are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Right? It's a good thing that we don't have funding, because the minute you take funding from a wrong country, this is what happens to you. Look how Burkina Faso is moving. That man didn't play. He just said, no, we're not going to do this. Please go out of my country. This is what we're going to do. And how many times did they try to kill him? How many times did they try to kill him? So we're in exactly the same situation. That's why it's important for South Africans to go out and say, but we want our country back. And if you want this country back, you will do only one thing, and that is to vote for MK. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Bell Ray, can you just sum it up before we can give it to Nhlanhla?
No, thank you, co-host. Rachel, as always, touches on the necessary issues. And I just want to say this, there's a reason why. Actually, there was a point where South Africa, even in Africa, was very influential. It's not every day you find lobbying of AU membership, especially back in the day. And we were able to lobby for Nkosazana Zuma to take that chairmanship there. So there was a time, once upon a time, besides the infrastructural reference we always make point to whenever we talk about South Africa in comparison to Africa, there was a time when South Africa was well respected in the continent. And it would be a lie to say, I laugh at people who reduce Comrade Zuma to being a provincial leader or even a national leader. That comrade is well respected throughout the continent and throughout the world. Putin knows that comrade, and he knows him very well. So we are very mistaken, a lot of us. South Africans, because we don't understand these things. And by the time we understand, it will be too late. As I was saying, I believe looking at Africa right now, we are far behind in terms of, because up there in the north, a lot of them have been progressive, as Rachel has also made the point. They are very progressive, those people up there. And I believe there will be a point with the trajectory we are on, that they will overtake and South Africa will be among the last. As once upon a time were leaders in the continent because of the direction we're taking and the role in the world we are playing and the position we so have as South Africa, also in BRICS and so forth. So, I just want to supplement what Rachel has said, that we've been derailed here, and then for a globalist agenda. And unfortunately, many opposition parties, they are for this, and that is the unfortunate part. That's why I also believe in this thing of organizing and the path we are on. But let me leave it there for now, and then allow Nhlanhla, and then I'll just come in at the end as well to just give a proper submission. But Nhlanhla, how are you?
Good evening, I'm fine. Good evening, co-hosts, listeners, and everybody in the space. Thanks for allowing me to make a submission and a contribution. I thank you. Sianda asked a question whether Umkhonto we Party is registered. Does it have a constitution? Yes, Umkhonto we is formally registered according to the IEC. and it has a constitution. I have seen the copy of the constitution myself, and I understand that once you have a constitution, you are able to register. You cannot register a political party with the IEC if you don't have a constitution. The issue at hand is that the ANC, through Fikile Mbalula, is challenging MK party in court, not with the IEC, because they know very well that they will be defeated. That's why they are going to court. We are hoping that even the court would not have a stand or a leg to stand on, because the ANC is circumventing the process. The very same thing that Judge Zondo did, just went to the Constitutional Court instead of the Court of the Magistrate to challenge President Zuma for defying the Commission of Inquiry on State Capture. The very same thing the ANC is doing. Instead of appealing to the IEC, they are undermining every structure of the Constitution, including the Chapter 9 institution, which is the IEC. They then go to court. We're hoping this time courts are going to be sober and don't listen to the ANC. They should dismiss whatever has been submitted by the ANC. The issue that now some sections of the media are engaging and confusing the voters is that President Zuma is not going to be allowed to stand for the party and be voted, even if MK party wins. Is not going to be allowed to be president because, one, he has served 2 terms, 2, he was arrested for a period of 15 months. Whereas, according to the IEC, if you have got a criminal, underline, a criminal charge, and you've been arrested for more than 12 months, you are not allowed to stand until you finish a 5-year period. Then you are allowed to be elected as a leader of government or to be part of parliament. The issue at hand is that, did Zuma, President Malala, committed any crime? The answer is no. The second question, why in 2 months did Ramaphosa give President Zuma pardon? The answer is because they understood that they were wrong. They were now wanting South Africans to look at them as merciful people or government. The third question is, what kind of pardon was President Zuma given? The answer is the remission, because President Zuma did not participate in any form of violence. Is violence a crime? Yes. Did Zuma, President Malala, commit crime? The answer is no. Then why then is the ANC and some sections of the media are pushing for this narrative that President Zuma will not be allowed to stand as part of parliament and the president? The answer is because they want to confuse the voters. They want the recruitment drive of the MK to be demobilized. So what is important for every member of MK and every supporter of MK, like the People's Revolutionary Movement, who have taken a decision that they will vote MK at national and province to national, is to explain to the electorates that there is nothing that is happening except trying to sow divisions and confusion among the electorate. It's our duty that when we do the recruitment drive, we need to explain that MK party has complied with the IEC. It has followed all the processes. The only persons that are not compliant with the IEC is the ANC itself. They are undermining the IEC. If they were taking MK party to court, they should be taking MK party and the IEC to court. I was made to understand that, yes, they are taking the IEC and MK party to court. If they are taking the MK party to court and the IEC, did MK party forcefully register itself with the IEC? The answer is no. Then you can see that there is an agenda, because their agenda of trying to discredit MK party is failing. They no longer have ammunition against the propaganda or against the propaganda against the MK. They are then using some sections of media to discredit the availability of President Zuma as the president in waiting after the voting in 29 May this year. So we need to be clear on those things, that we are not going to retreat. And we shall not be voting President Zuma as an individual or an independent candidate, but we'll be voting for Umkhonto Sizwe party, which in there is President Zuma as a suggested or proposed candidate, and that is open to everybody, to all South Africans. But when they go and vote, they won't find the name of President Zuma. They'll find the name of MK party, and they must vote MK party in all the ballot papers that would be in their hands. And President Zuma is part of the MK party, is not an independent like other independents that are registered with the IEC. May I take this opportunity to give others an opportunity to speak? Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Unidentified, do you have anything to add? Host.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself in here. Sorry about that. I think, thank you very much for your contribution, Nhlanhla. I think it is the voice of reason that you're bringing forward here in many ways than one, in the sense that you are able to respond to some of the outstanding questions that were being raised. Of course, sowing confusion is what the media would want to do, is what the opposition in the form of the ANC will be wanting to do. And they will continue doing that because they have a lot that they are going to lose if they are to, not do well in these oncoming elections that we are approaching. And it is for us and for the people like ourselves to be able to channel a kind of a discussion and a kind of a knowledge capacity to our people so that they can be reassured that indeed we still have got a direction and a very clear direction that we are taking as MK that is aimed at totally liberating this country of ours without further delay that we have had over the past number of years during the ANC rule. We still have some, we don't see any hands right now. Let me just invite other colleagues. Okay, I can see that Mamu Kim is requesting a mic.
While she's still connecting, host, sorry. I just wanted to say, another thing which I feel like it's important to point out. The Arab Spring started on social media. It's a very important thing to not always feel helpless, especially with also the media. We always speak about the media and the role that it plays in society and so forth. And I'm really against this thing of placing politics in the hands of politicians only. And that is, I think, also the approach MK has been taking to say people should be invited to participate. So what I'm trying to say is that social media itself, whether it's whatever platform, even the spaces we are creating, should be an engine towards dismantling some of these things, especially whatever space you occupy. Let us be able. Hence, I always emphasize on that political schooling, and not just on the level of just on high levels as a political party member, but on a situation whereby the basics of even the events of politics in South Africa that are easily debunked so that people can understand. So I don't want us to look down on the capacity we can play, looking at already what has happened in the recent history, like the example I just made of the Arab Spring and other revolutions which were started on social media and so forth. It's such a phenomenal tool if only we also understand how we can play that part. So I really would like us to also look at it from that perspective to say we all can play a role, and this space itself, it plays a role. So it is really important for ourselves and everyone that they understand that politics, those times are finished where we just say politics for politicians. People must participate, people must understand, and not leave it to politicians or the media itself to create platforms for us to take our message forward. Anyway, I'm sorry I had to do that, co-host. I just didn't want to forget because I've been meaning to make this contribution, so I keep on seeing hands, so I just thought I'm going to forget. I think I can give it to Kim Hela, and then after I can be think tank. After you finish, I don't know if you're complete because I cannot disrupt you, co-host.
No, I'm done. We can just hand it over to Kim Hela now.
Thank you to the host and co-hosts. Sorry, I'm having Ramaphosa load shedding, so my connection is a bit difficult. I hope you can hear me well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I've been watching the growth of the MK party with great interest. And I may be aligned to another party, but you know that I come with the best intentions and great wishes for your flourishing. I've written that I hope that you will really link up with the left-wing parties and form a formidable force. And so there are people who are looking for a new paradigm in politics that is putting a lot of faith and belief in you, and the growth that you've done is spectacular. In fact, I hope somebody's writing about this, because I think it's a case study for politics in the world, actually, not only in South Africa and the continent. And it's a magnificent rise, and I just hope you keep increasing that. What I wanted to say, there was a speaker earlier, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly who it was, who spoke about media, and that made me feel like I wanted to come on, because I think that is such a critical point, to establish your own media platforms and opportunities, because the media will tell a terrible story. I mean, I'm virtually banned now from South African media platforms because, and when I have appeared on them, they shut me down after a minute. So there are the enemies that are completely behind the Ramaphosa DA regime. I don't see the current ANC government as any different from the DA at the moment. And I've said I think they're going to form a pact. So the media is against you. And having been in the EFF, working with Malema and the team in 2014, I saw how badly the media was against the organization. In fact, the only time they were nice, and I used to go to lots of those press conferences, the only time the media suddenly softened to him was when he started speaking anti-Zuma. Then he became the sweetheart. But media cannot be trusted. And I think there are lots of platforms. One of the things I was also thinking is, I think the EFF, I haven't been to the sessions, but I think they do like special sessions with professionals and different groups. And that might be a nice thing for MK to do, so that you go into specific target groups and have one-on-one conversations or discussions with them. It could be like the petrol attendant union or black professionals, because I think you are being created as depicted in the media as a very one-dimensional tribalist type party, violent party. And I think once people engage with you, they'll see the intellectual prowess and power. So I think those one-on-one engagements or group-specific things would be good. What I wanted to say, I was listening, I'm worried because I always feel that we must expect the worst from this government. So my second and last point is that what I would like to suggest, and it's just a suggestion coming from somebody, I'm like old now, I've been involved in lots of election politics, firstly for the ANC and then the EFF. And what I would like I personally think